Good afternoon, everybody. It is Friday afternoon, noon PST, and that is when the Junk You Should Know show goes live. So here we are. I'm Dr. Heather Denniston, and we are talking about Mind the Gap today, and I bet you have no idea what that's about, and we will break that down a little for you in just a minute. We're going to be talking about how difficult it is to get rid of bad habits, and that there is a little trick you might want to try to make it happen. Hi, whoever just joined. When you join, tell me in the comments section a bad habit you've tried to give up before and have failed. I hope everyone's having a great Friday. I started a new book, Talking to Strangers. I'm a Malcolm Gladwell fan. They're a little meaty sometimes to get through, but why I picked this up is because it is talking about communication errors that we have as humans and things that we think we're doing well that we're actually not. And I am such a big advocate and lover of concepts around communication. So that's why I picked it up at the airport last night. It's good so far. So I can't say it's fantastic because I'm only like a 16th of the way in. So that's a recommendation. Today I'm in my kitchen. And here's why, because I got a dinner party tonight, and I did not have time in my day today to make a salad, so I thought I'm gonna make it during the during the junk show. So you're gonna make a salad with me while we talk about bad habits. The Junk Show, as always, is sponsored by The Change Cave, which is a 12-module online wellness institute for women over 40, where we just take on bulletproof resources, unwavering accountability, and a fierce group of like-minded women in our private Facebook group. And we learn so much. We have expert presenters that come. We have a mindset class once a month. We have weekly newscasts. We have challenges. So much fun. So if you don't know much about The Change Cave, I will put a link in the comments and you can just check it out. I was away this weekend in San Diego at Performance Con, and that is an event that Todd Herman holds once a year to help entrepreneurs kind of learn the latest and the greatest. We talked about Instagram, we talked about YouTube and LinkedIn and all sorts of things, lead generation, emails, advertising. We just kind of hit it all. So I wanted to give you 3 takeaways from that event that are to do with wellness. Hey, I like that I'm seeing Hillary. Good to see you. So 3 takeaways that are wellness-based, learned at an entrepreneur conference. And so the first one was from Emily Fletcher of Ziva Meditation in LA. I loved her. She was a great speaker. She's a super, really warm and lovely person. And one of the things she talked about was meditation versus mindfulness. And I had never heard it broken down this way before. She said mindfulness is getting rid of current stress. Meditation is getting rid of old stress and old junk that you're dealing with. I thought that was a great delineation to think about. And she said most of what's being taught right now in some of the meditation apps and different things is more of a mindfulness practice. Nothing wrong with that. But her philosophy is we also need to learn true meditation. So I haven't jumped into her content yet, but I am looking forward to it because I really liked how she talked about 2 15-minute practices of meditation a day, and that there's a very specific way to get into it, and that if you do it right, it's like 5 times more deep than your deepest sleep. And it was very interesting. So I'm looking forward to connecting with her. Number 2, limitations. And I learned this for myself personally. I am an introvert, and I need to monitor my output and balance it with recovery time. And so this was 3 days. Each day started right around 7 o'clock. It ended 9 or 10 at night. And you kind of were responsible for your own breaks. They had a lunch break, but they had stuff going on at lunch. And so one of the things I realized, or that I came to the conclusion of, is there's all this great stuff available to me during these 3 days. And we all get into situations like this. It may not be a conference. It might be something else that you don't want to miss out on. Maybe it's a trip to Disneyland, or maybe it's traveling to Europe. And you want to get the most out of every moment. However, when you go beyond what your body's capacity is, then you're doing yourself a disservice. And in my case, I was no longer absorbing information. I was not doing well interacting with people. I needed to remove myself and recover and process what I had gone through already. And the conclusion I drew was, if I take this much of the information and really absorb it and really allow my body to process it and integrate and move forward with it, then what I've missed, I don't need to be disappointed or sad or feel ashamed of myself for not going. It means that I've created some balance and I'm going to integrate this much better and I don't need to worry about this. I think that is much better than going full out, going crazy, and overextending yourself, and then you're so exhausted you implement none of it. So if you ever go to a retreat or a conference, keep that in mind. If you need to take a break, go and take a break. Don't beat yourself up about missing certain speakers or missing out on certain activities. Go take care of yourself. Number 3, block and tackle. I've heard this in lots of different ways, and the concept is this, that whatever activity we have to do or we choose to do will expand the amount of time that you allow it. So if you suddenly get a phone call and your in-laws are coming to stay with you and they're going to be there in 2 hours, suddenly your house can get clean in 2 hours. If you have all Sunday for house cleaning, it's going to take all Sunday. The example this particular speaker used was so good. She said, have you ever done that where you've gone to a cafe and you're going to work and you open up your computer and there's only 23% left? Like, how much work do you get done? And you've forgotten your charger cord, so you literally have 23% battery left to get done everything you want to get done. Suddenly your productivity goes through the ceiling. And I thought that was quite an interesting example. And so when you are planning things in your day, be it work obligations or whatever you're doing around the house, set a time limit for yourself. Even set a timer. Our brains respond to this, and this idea of blocking and tackling, meaning block a short period of time, tackle one project, not multitasking, and you will find yourself so much more productive, so much more white space in your calendar and time for what you want to do. And it is just a healthier way to function instead of trying to do 5 or 6 things at once with no time boundaries, and then you're wondering why you can't get anything done. And so block and tackle. So the 3 things were about new stress versus old stress, mindfulness versus meditation. That's Ziva meditation. Number 2 was limitations. When you're faced with just a lot to do in one day, or you're at a conference or you're traveling, don't try to do everything. Listen to your body. Allow your body to tell you what it needs. And number 3, block and tackle. Setting tension in your schedule to force you to stay focused. It is definitely a forcing function. Okay. We're going to start making some salad while we talk about bad habits. Now, in the Change Cave right now, we are lettuce. I have already washed this. Have I washed this one? No, I haven't. We are in the Change Cave this month, just started a habits challenge. And so what we do is we pick one habit to implement in a 30-day period. And we go through a process of identifying and paring down. So we identify maybe a few habits that we want to look at, and then we go through a process of how easy is this one to implement? How likely am I to do it? What is the impact that implementing this habit will have on my life? And through that, we distill down to the one habit that we want to focus on, and we implement. And we keep a calendar of how many days did we actually knock out whatever this new habit is. And we keep it tiny. In the work of BJ Fogg, how he talks about tiny habits, implementing a small thing consistently plants a seed so it can germinate and grow into a bigger habit. So 1 push-up a day is better than trying to start off doing 30 push-ups a day. And so we are doing that in the Change Cave. So it got me thinking about habits. And the science tells us that new habits are much easier to implement than trying to stop a habit. So starting a habit versus stopping is actually much easier from a brain perspective than stopping. So I want to tell you a story. When I was in chiropractic school, my last quarter, I went and lived with my aunt and uncle. It's actually my, what is it when your mother's cousin to you is a second cousin or a cousin once removed? Whatever it was, that's what they were to me. And when I went there, I noticed that Peter would come home from work and he would immediately get into like this little Speedo bathing suit and walk out into the backyard. And finally I said to Susan, what is he doing out there? She said, oh, we have a sauna tucked in the back. And I said, oh, that's pretty cool. And he did it every single day when he got home from work. He was out there for an hour. He'd take like a little thing of iced tea. And finally I said to Peter, I said, and I didn't know a lot about sauna at this time, so I was kind of like curious. I said, what are you doing out there? Like, why do you do this every day when you come home from work? And he kind of thought about it for a minute, and he started, telling me all about the benefits of sauna and how good it is for his health. And he said, but that's not actually why. And I said, well, why? And he said, well, I was an alcoholic and I decided to give up drinking. And the trick or the difficulty was that I had spaces in my day where that's when I prepped a cocktail. And coming home from work was one of them. Putting a little fresh rosemary in our salad, by the way. And so he said, I knew I needed to mind that gap. I needed to watch out for the fact that that was a potential stumbling block for me. If I didn't have something stuck in there blocking my path to the kitchen and the ice cube machine and subsequently the vodka, then I knew I wasn't going to be successful. And he said, so I created an exchange. I exchanged drinking for coming straight home, changing, sauna, iced tea. And by the time I get out of the sauna, I don't feel like it anymore. I don't need it. As an addict, he talked about, you're always addicted. You're always having to watch it. And he said, so I try to put as many things in spaces where I used to have a drink so that I have something else going on. And so the simple message today is this. If you are trying to give up something, you need to find something to replace it. You need to find some kind of exchange. So a friend of mine who was addicted to diet sodas was not successful until she found mineral water, kombucha. She always had something so she'd have something in her hand to do instead. So I'm curious for you guys, what bad habits have you struggled with? And have you tried in the past to do some kind of exchange, and were you more successful? So I'm very curious about that. Now, we're making a salad, and I was going to show you a dressing today. However, as happens, I got my olive oil out. There's like a teaspoon in there. So I'm going to talk you through what I do for salad. Because we've got a nice short show today, so let's talk about some fun stuff. So when I make a dressing, I always make way more than I need, so I use a container like this. And if I had enough oil, I would fill just under half with oil, and then to the top with a vinegar. Now you can pick your oil. You can have olive oil, avocado oil. You can pick your acid. So balsamic vinegar, apple cider vinegar, white wine vinegar, red wine vinegar, even like juice of an orange, juice of a lemon, juice of a lime. And then you want to add some of the zhuzh or the flair. And the simplest one I like to do is, my first flair is all-purpose seasoning, Simply Organic, love it. I'll just put a ton of that in. And then my other kind of new favorite thing, salt flakes. Salt flakes somehow are better than regular salt. I don't know why. These we got in Iceland, but Morton's, no. Oh, I can see the name of the box. It's a yellow and green box. There's a very nice salt flake that you can get at Whole Foods or PCC or any of whatever your natural food grocer is. Just look for salt flakes. And you just take a pinch and you grind it and deposit it that way. Some stores like Crate & Barrel and Sur La Table have really nice salt containers that have like a little lid on them and maybe a little spoon. We just put a bunch of that in one of those little containers, keep it on our counter, and then just use it that way. You know, we're getting away from thinking that salt is horrible you don't want to way overdo it, but there are some huge benefits if you are using a good Himalayan sea salt. There are lots and lots of benefits to getting enough salt in your diet. In fact, I just did an interview with a woman named Gina out of New York who owns the Hydration Foundation. And she talked a lot about, and she did a special interview for the Change Cave. And she talked a lot about how overly processed purified water can actually strip your system of important nutrients, electrolytes, etc. So she suggests putting a nice pinch of salt in your water, or some cucumber, or some lime or lemon, so we can get it back a little closer to what it was when it was natural. And also a lot of the foods, or a lot of the plants like tuber and chia and lots of those different plants that have water, where when you get water from those, they have lots of nutrients and minerals and things in them. So salt, okay, don't panic about salt. And then some pepper. And so that makes a nice, easy dressing. I'm going to, like I said, a dinner party tonight. And so I'm gonna just take that, and I'm gonna steal my friend Colleen's olive oil when I get to her house. So one other thing I wanted to show you that's a favorite of mine as well is, I have not eaten yet today. I was intermittent fasting this morning, and I'm going to eat right after the show today. And so I'm like, what is the quickest thing I can put together? And I put this together a lot. Can of pole-caught tuna. Pole-caught means not farmed. And Hillary, it's funny you're watching, because I know you and I have talked about pole-caught versus farmed before. Still my preference, but with a little teaspoon or tablespoon of, this is Primal Kitchen's Chipotle Lime Mayo. Crack. Love it. It is so good. And just mix that with tuna, and I literally will maybe chop up some celery, maybe not, and then I'll put a half an avocado on it. And then you have fat, you've got protein, a great 3-minute lunch. And so let's do that together just real quick. And the other thing, guys, too, is the Junk Show, you may not know, lives forever on YouTube. And so you can head over there anytime and just hit subscribe and then get notifications. And that way you won't miss a show. And I was on a show last week, somebody else's show. I like to do that from time to time. And it was Erin, that girl from Jersey. So while you're over on YouTube, if you want to pop over to That Girl from Jersey and check out the show I did with her last week, it was very funny. We had quite a funny interchange about cat fur that you might want to watch. So quite funny. Anyway, here I am, so easy. And I'm just going to give this a nice little mix so that as soon as I sign off with you guys, I can have some lunch. And I don't know, what else do you add to your tuna salad? I'm very curious about that, because I think it's such an easy, quick way to get some protein in. Tuna salad, or you can get canned salmon, canned chicken. You know, as long as you just watch where it's coming from, good to go. So literally done. And I'm just going to take one of my brand new yummy avocados about today and throw one of those on top. How do you peel an avocado? I know there are some very serious conflicting theories about that. I just half mine like that, and then I section it. I don't know if you can see that. Right? And then voila. Isn't that easy? Okay, well guys, I'm gonna have some lunch. So thank you for joining me today as I'm making my salad, making my lunch. And remember, we talked about stopping habits needs a mind the gap, needs a space filler, something to kind of stick in there so it blocks you from wanting to go back to it. And number 2, we talked a little bit about some of the takeaways from Performance Con, which were very fun. And we also talked about the Change Cave. So I will remind myself to put a link below for that so you can check it out if you're interested. And we will see you next week. Next week is very special. I have Mindy Pelz on, and she is going to be talking about fasting. She is a go-to girl on this subject, and so I cannot wait to talk to her. So to those of you who watch live, I love you. To those of you who are watching in replay, I love you just as much as well. Hi, Melissa, and I can't wait to see you guys next week, and have a great weekend, everybody. Goodbye.